Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Blacklist, the show where we interview the elite. Today, we have Brandon Elliot to my right, and he's the first guy that kind of introduced me into credit, into not only personal credit, but also business credit. Ton of hacks there and things like that. So I appreciate that. And today, we're going to get a lot into his journey, what he currently does now, and a lot of that good stuff. So for people that don't know you, though, this is their first time listening in, first time ever seeing you. Who is Brandon, and what is it that you do?
Yeah, so I always say I'm a real estate investor and a credit specialist. I grew up in New Jersey originally, and by a single parent mother, the American poor,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Definitely blessed, but we grew up on Section 8 housing and Social Security and food stamps, stuff like that. But
Yeah.
over time, what I fell in love with real estate, and I didn't have the money to do it. But I ended up figuring out, when there's a will, there's a way. So
Yeah.
I went down this crazy path, this rabbit hole of credit, and I figured out how to be able to get as much credit as possible to be able to liquidate and buy real estate.
Yeah, and a lot of people when they hear that, they're like, "There's no way," right? But I
Yeah.
mean, you've literally posted it on Facebook, like exactly your numbers, all of that type of stuff, and
Oh, yeah.
you use none of your own cash,
Nope.
right? Just credit.
Yep.
Now, for people that are listening, they're like, that's no way that's happening. Like, walk me through a little bit. How does that happen? How can you get to that point?
Yeah, so a lot of people, there's so many myths out there about credit. First off, the financial literacy that we're being taught in school, it's a joke.
Yeah,
Even the bank managers are very clueless.
Yeah.
Out of all due respect, they just don't know how to guide us because they don't know the game. So I always look at it as this is like real life monopoly of finances that we're all playing,
right.
except nobody knows the rules to be able to play this.
Yeah, yeah,
So they're missing out on the true game. Overall, there's this 4-step process that we've kind of broken down that really sets people up for success, that they're able to get up to $500,000 every 6 months at 0% interest.
yeah. That's crazy.
Crazy, yeah.
Because at that point you're not using any of your own funds. Like in order to save $500,000, like your business has to be doing really good, and then your profit margins also have to be good, and then you have to like save, and so all that to get to $500,000 liquid yourself,
Yeah.
is harder than it would be if you just did it via credit, right?
Dude, it would take forever. I mean,
Yeah.
this is something that we've taught 18, 19-year-olds how to do and people in their 70s.
Yeah,
And this is exactly, if you think about it, this is exactly what the rich do. Like, this is exactly what the Elon Musk, the Jeff Bezos,
yeah,
like Richard Branson, like these guys understand the power of credit and leverage. And so the difference between good debt and bad debt, right?
Yep.
I'm not telling anybody to go out there and get 500,000 at 0% interest and then buy a Gucci sweatshirt, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like buy assets, but there's ways that you can get this money from the bank, leverage it, and really compound your success a heck of a lot quicker.
Yeah. So for people that are listening, they're like, okay, well, my credit's shit right now.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that they can start doing to kind of start building that up?
For sure, yeah. So the 4-step process, first off, it's educate, fix, build, then leverage. So even if you're in the 800 club, you still need to do fixing. And a
Yeah.
lot of people are going to think like, no, my credit's good, right? But believe it or not, like if you have no late payments, nothing derogatory, no hard inquiries, you still got to update your personal identification info. And the good news is if you don't have messed up credit and you're in the low mid 700s, then it'll take about an hour worth of your time before
Yeah.
you can move on to the build, start boosting up your score to get to the 800 club. That takes 30 days or less. The part where it comes down to somebody that has really jacked up credit, I'm talking a bunch of late payments,
Yeah.
hard inquiries, collections, and so forth. Again, you want to start with personal identification info, and then we teach a backdoor method. It's going to the dispute section of each of the 3 bureaus, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. It's a free account. You want to make that, and then you want to start disputing certain things in the right order.
Yeah.
Afterwards, there are certain techniques of like if you have late payments, right, you can call up your bank, beg, plead, and ask for a goodwill gesture, a one-time forgiveness, right?
Yeah.
But if you have a bunch of this stuff, they're probably not going to be so eager to do so. And it depends on the bank.
Right.
There's literally 9,500 banks nationwide, and they all want to lend to you. It's just they want to put you in that risk category, medium, low, high, and to really see what you can qualify for. So
Yeah.
CFPB is a good website that you can utilize to dispute things. If you've ever been a victim to identity theft, FTC report, there's many different ways to
And-
factual data.
And man, I was looking at a recent statistic or study or something like that, but like most people have had identity theft, right? And they just don't know about it.
They don't know it, but that's such a key point right there. almost every single person has been a victim to identity theft,
Yeah.
and you will be. The odds are you will be at least 1 out of 5 times within your life.
That's crazy.
And it's because of all the data breaches from these 3 bureaus, TransUnion, Equifax, Experian. They get hit all the time.
Yeah.
I get these settlements on a regular basis, several times a year, that I'm getting paid out for just having an account with them. And again, they leaked my information, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So if you've ever applied for a bank, if you've ever applied for anything, your information is out there, and 9 times out of 10, you have been a victim to identity theft, and you don't even know it.
Yeah, that to me is like crazy phenomenal. Like people don't, yeah, like you said, people don't even know
They
that
don't
type of
know.
stuff. Well, you weren't always here in this spot. Walk me through. Like I know you walked us through a little bit about your backstory, but you've had a pretty rough upbringing, right? Yeah, I would say, like for example, actually I'll let you tell the story.
Yeah.
But yeah, for people that way they don't just think like, oh yeah, Brandon has it all together. He's always
Sure.
had it all together.
Yeah, honestly, I grew up a screw up in many ways, just misguided. I met my father when I was 18 years old in court, so
Yeah.
he could stop paying child support. So I didn't really have that male guidance, right?
Yeah.
And I think as a male, we all need some kind of, male influence to help guide us properly into, being a true man.
Yeah.
My mom, bless her heart, she's like she's a grinder, and she raised 3 misfits, right? But she suffers from manic depressive bipolar disorder, and so she couldn't really ever work. She did side things on the side, but there was days that she was encouraging me to stay home
Yeah.
from school when it's like, well, I know I got a test, like
Right.
I don't want to go to school either, but and then it encouraging me like, let's go out to get ice cream, in the morning, and stuff like that. So certain bad habits, I realized at a very young age, I needed to kind of grow up sooner than later, and be kind of the man in the house.
Yeah.
And so I was looking for a job at age 9. I was getting little odd jobs in the neighborhood, and I finally got my first job at age 12, working in the back of these restaurants from an amazing woman from church. And later on, long story short, I kind of found myself going down the wrong path from misguidance, and I tried marijuana for the first time. I kind of fell in love with it. I used it for the good, the bad, the ugly, everything in between. And because I grew up poor, I couldn't afford it. So I had to be the person in my group that sold it. That's what came
Yeah.
to my mind originally. Like, well, if I sell it to these guys, then maybe I could smoke for free.
Yeah.
And that was where the first entrepreneur spirit came into me.
Yep. Yep.
And because I wasn't used to making money, as I made it, I would just take it back and get more. And I get
Yeah.
more and more. And it just turned into kind of a hot mess. But
Yeah, dude, you were a drug dealer, dude.
not so proud of it, but it's something that it is my past. It is who
Yeah.
I am. And so that ended up taking me down this path that I had guns to my head, knives to my throat. I've been pulled over like 100 plus times. I've had my house raided, and I've had best friends rob me,
Yeah.
a couple days before Christmas. And so when I moved out to California to get away from everything, I literally was just wholesaling it in the mail back home to New Jersey, and I ended up having an explosion in my apartment making hash oil. I had this big explosion. I was on fire. I realized like, oh shit,
Yeah.
this isn't good. And I heard my neighbor screaming next door. I literally like ripped off my clothes. Some of it burnt off me. And I was induced into a coma for a full week. I went through 3 surgeries, had to learn how to walk again, and I was facing 5 criminal charges. I got 2 felonies and misdemeanor,
Yeah.
and house arrest, and it was a crazy situation.
How old were you when that happened?
I was this was in 2012, so September 24th, 2012.
Yeah.
Or 13 is when, sorry. Yeah, 2013 is when that explosion happened, and I was fighting it in court for 2 years. So 2015 is when I settled we had to take it to trial because they were trying to give me 12 years.
Oh shoot.
Yeah, I was like, come on,
Yeah,
guys. you
yeah.
know? And luckily, I was prepared. Court made me, for those 2 years, have a mentor and go to 3 meetings per week. And
That's good.
that's what changed my life, honest to God. So that with my personality type, I needed a strong slap on, like a slap on the wrist wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
I needed something aggressive, like to
Like
literally
the
be
fire.
on fire. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
on fire, burnt 40% of my body. I had to get skin graft.
Damn.
It was nasty. Learning how to walk again, just being bedridden for a couple weeks. Like
Yeah.
people don't think about that.
No.
I sure didn't.
Yeah.
So
And yeah, I mean, and to see where you are now, like you're crushing it. You're speaking on stage, you're throwing your own masterminds.
yeah.
You have a big community. You're teaching people how to utilize leverage credit. You're crushing it in real estate. Like you made a 180.
Yeah, I'm so blessed for him. Like I give all the glory to God, because without him, like honestly, I don't know where I would be. Because I was definitely on the wrong path for the longest time.
Yeah.
And because of that situation, the circumstances, and really getting recorrected, having a good mentor, a good male figure in my life to say, dude, I see so much more in you. Like you're on the wrong path right now, but I know you can get on the right one. And that just encouraged me to seek out more mentorship. And so now we invest over $250K each year into ourselves,
Yeah.
just to get into the highest level rooms and have good, people pouring into us.
Yeah. And is that why, you started kind of teaching credit as well? Because, people are in those spots where they're like, man, my credit's ruining me. Without good credit, you can't get apartments, you can't get cars, you can't get a lot of that stuff.
Well, so with my situation, I was investing 3,000 miles away into real estate, doing the BRRRR strategy. And so what that looked like is I started getting, passive income from these properties, getting multiple properties, one after another, having no money into it at the end of the day, and just using my credit.
Yeah.
And then having enough security from, not getting screwed over by contractors because I paid with credit, and having enough points to go on a free vacation afterwards,
Yeah.
So these things, I started noticing, like everybody else around me was all wowed by it. And I was like, you could do it too. Like anybody can do it.
Yeah.
And, but they kept on disqualifying themselves, saying, well, I don't have the capital. I need to focus on this, my job, so that I can get money over here. And then I'll invest in real estate. And I was just looking at it as a like kind of analytical way of like, dude, I don't know if that's ever going to happen. Like
Yeah.
I was working restaurants.
Yeah.
And if I was working like 15-hour days. I was working 2 restaurant jobs. I had 1 day off to get done all my like crap throughout the week,
Yeah.
And so that I was just like, dude, I don't think it's going to happen. So you got to get funds, you got to get educated, or you got to get this credit so that you can really, compound it faster.
You said something that I think a lot of people probably didn't catch, but like would enjoy. You said you protect yourself with contractors using credit.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah. So when you are paying, instead of paying cash, right? All real estate investors are going to get screwed over one way or another by a contractor one day if you're paying cash. Like a lot of contractors are going to ask for a bunch up front. I've had contractors that bought the material, staged it as if it's all set up and done, and then they bill you for it. I pay, and then I come to find out like, dude, that sink wasn't actually installed, and then you ran away with it afterwards.
Yeah.
Like, oh God, like all these different things, and so it's not all, and I can't say all. I'm not gonna like point the blame on all contractors, but it is a different mindset. Like they work with their hands. Investors are more like, this is an investment.
Yeah.
And because I was from California, 3,000 miles away, investing over in Ohio when I first got started, like, they're thinking I'm some rich white guy over in California living the dream, when I was barely making it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I have heard about that a lot. Like a lot of investors or, real estate people, they'll say like, yeah, like contractors are very hard to work with. Like, not all of them, but like, when they sometimes they just don't complete the job, or they have to bill you more because of X, Y, and Z,
Yep.
So credit allows you to kind of like just dispute it.
Yeah, so you have protection, right? If you have a detailed scope of work, right,
Yeah.
if you have that locked in place and you know exactly what's supposed to take place in each and every room, and then you have timelines behind it, you have your contract, you have before and after pictures.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard to, like you don't need to take it to court now.
Yeah.
Because you paid with credit card. If they don't do the work, and if you're not satisfied, and I only had to do this once or twice.
Yeah.
And they like you're just calling, you're making a quick phone call instead of doing the whole court process.
Because most people have to go to court.
Yeah,
right?
and then
Like,
they
have
can't
to
find them,
dispute-
or
Yeah.
they didn't have the contract, or they didn't have before. Like all these
Yeah.
little things that add up. So if you have all these things, and then you just make a call to your credit card company saying, "Hey, they didn't do what they said they were going to, and they took off,"
Yeah.
then they're going to open up a dispute with that individual, and they have the opportunity to, rebuttal it, and kind of like what you would do in court naturally.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if they did screw you over, then it's hard for them to dispute it.
100%. And if and correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it better if you utilize credit because it's the bank's money?
Yes.
Instead of like using your own debit, right?
Yeah.
Like they care a lot more if it's their own money. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the case?
So nobody should ever be using debit cards first off.
Okay.
Okay, because you're putting yourself at so much risk and less insurance policy, less coverage. When you pay with credit card, you're getting points, but you're also getting protection.
Yeah.
And if you're using 0% interest credit cards, then even better, because now you get the protection, you get the points, and you are leveraging other people's money, OPM.
Right.
And it happens to be the banks.
Yeah.
And think of it like this. People just don't understand this, but it's exactly what the banks have been doing to us forever.
Yeah.
Like we give all of our money to the banks. We put our money and our checks into the banks, and then they give us how much percent back? Like it's 0.00 nothing. Almost nothing.
Yeah.
Basically 0% interest loans is what we're giving them. But then they lend it back out to us for personal loans, auto loans, business loans, mortgages. You know what I'm saying? Like
At a percentage, yeah.
they put nine times to work.
Yeah.
On average, and they average anywhere from 500 to 3,000%. Like these are some big numbers.
Yeah, for sure.
So all I'm doing is teaching people how to flip the script on the banks and get the money from the banks at 0% interest up to 500,000. You can do this in very short period of time, about 30 days to 90 days, and with only about 5 hours worth of work from yourself.
Yeah.
To actually implement this.
And that's probably the craziest thing that's hard to understand for people because it's such an outrageous amount of money that like, and most people have this thought that you have to like work really hard, in order to get X or in order to like, get a lot of money like that or things like that. But no, I've had several people that do credit that tell me the exact same thing.
Yeah, man.
It's not that hard. And to me, it's like, it's still, doesn't like process in my brain. But it's because you're doing the right things with the right sequence and, you already know the process to get to the result,
For sure. So first off, it's not easy.
Yeah.
Because if it was, every single person out there would be doing it.
Right.
Like my grandma and everybody else, right?
Yeah.
The thing is though, it can be simplified. And I'm very proud that at Credit Counsel Elite, we have simplified it over the years. Like we've really broken this down, and there is 25 plus moving pieces to be able to get a successful mass apply.
Yeah.
A mass apply is, for anybody out there that doesn't know, it's when you apply for anywhere from 10 to 40 plus credit cards in a 30-day time frame and get a 90% approval odds. That's how you get the 500K.
Yeah.
Right? So doing that in the right order, it's not easy, but it can be like understood, learned, and implemented in a very short time frame.
Yeah, and I went through it. I went through the course. Like it's phenomenal. Like you dive in each and every single thing. It's very in depth. Like the moment I started doing the fixing, like did it work like this?
Yeah.
It's just you're just very knowledgeable in that space.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
And it does help out a lot of people because, like I said, like without the credit, that's basically your report card to like the world.
It is. Nobody notices. I mean, some people are getting judged on their credit just to get a job nowadays.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Because, it does kind of show a level of like your responsibility,
It does.
If you're delinquent, if you're not paying back your stuff on time, if you're like all this type of stuff. It does kind of give you a report card on like how you handle, yourself and your finances.
Yeah. And what's sad though is that there's really good people out there that have they've been set up kind of in the system, in the game, and messed up their credit, and not intentionally, not like they had it on auto pay, something happened with the banks, like good people that don't deserve to have jacked up credit and that are suffering from it. Yeah. And it's simply because all the myths out there, what's being taught in school, or the lack of what's, being taught in school. Yeah. And so it's really a hot mess.
Yeah, no, and and that's why it's good for people like you to kind of like, talk about it, and kind of just share, what you know. So that's good. In terms of like, masterminds, things like that, because I know that's just one part of what you do.
Yeah.
But you also do real estate and you do that pretty heavily.
Yeah.
But you also have some masterminds and things like that. I think last one was in Tulum or Cancun, or which one?
Yeah, so we had one last year in September in Tulum for a full week. That was incredible. We had somebody get engaged over there.
Nice.
We had 60 of our members come out, so it was pretty bomb. It was a all inclusive resort, and it was really cool.
And are you throwing those because you want to build a community as well, versus just like?
Yeah, we have just the most amazing culture in our community. Like, I'm very, very blessed to say, like, we have go-getters in there. Like, people really want to make a difference in their family and their community. So that's what I'm most proud of. We just had a smaller event over in Utah a couple months ago, and that was incredible as well.
Yep.
And so when we get the opportunity to do life together, network and help each other out, do business deals together, as well as we were able to raise over $33,000 for this nonprofit in San Diego that is helping build 3 new homes in Mexico for families. And we got to participate in one of those. And I mean, it's an incredible feeling.
Yeah. And then you said, like, you're investing yourself into these masterminds, right?
For sure.
Like, I think you said $250,000 you're spending a year on these
per
masterminds.
Year. Yep.
If you don't mind sharing, like, what's your biggest goal when you do join these masterminds? Is it to learn? Is it to network? What is it for?
Yeah. So 9 times out of 10, the content is going to be really good, but the networking is where it's at.
Yeah.
Like, the networking, if you can surround yourself with high level people that are a couple steps ahead of you, that are doing just amazing, incredible things for the world, for themselves, for their family, and so many other people, then I want to connect with them. Like, I want to become best friends. I want to do life with those guys. I want to get away from the stinking thinking people that are that are just negative Nancy and that are holding themselves back. Right.
Yeah. Which ones are you in, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, so 100 mil, 100 million. We are in Avengers. We did one with Cole Hatter and Cody Sperber, called The Best Year Ever. That was a very secluded one.
Yeah.
Kent Clothier is one.
Oh yeah, so a lot of real estate ones then.
Yeah,
because all those guys are essentially real estate guys, except for the 100 million mastermind one.
Yeah.
That one is a little bit, I think, more.
It's all business. Yeah, high level business.
Yeah. Well, that's good, because Kent Clothier's a good guy. Cole Hatter, like, all of them are, top fucking level, dude.
Yeah, shout out to Kent. Like, he really, like, I'm not a boost up type of person. Like, he has changed my life in so many ways of systemizing my business properly.
Yeah.
And just the last year and 6 months even, like, just incredible results of just making these small tweaks. And I do one-on-one coaching with him. He's in my backyard of San Diego, so it really, it's incredible.
Easy. Yeah. In terms of the real estate, so, how long have you been doing that?
For real estate, I started in 2015.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, so you've been doing it for about, what?
8 years.
Yeah.
Yep.
Damn. Yeah. Well, you've been doing a lot of this stuff for a long time.
Yeah.
What's been your biggest flip?
Last year we flipped one. It took 90 days. It was actually right across from my house in San Diego, Old Town.
Oh, dude, that
that
must have been nice.
Pretty convenient.
Yeah.
But we made $475,000 net on it.
Yeah, and in 90 days too.
90, and I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how much of your credit did you end up using?
It was a little over 260, like 270 or 80.
And when people are hearing that, is that personal or is that business?
It's business.
Business credit?
So in the beginning, I was only using personal, and I slept on business credit for a few years, unfortunately. And I regret that. I don't regret many things, but I know that because you can build up business credit if you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You can build up just tremendous amounts of wealth on that.
I've heard, and you can max it out, and and it's not going to ruin your credit report. Like, I'm assuming when you were using your personal, you would max it out, and you couldn't get out any more credit, and you'd have to wait until it flipped, right?
Well, so I learned this very quickly because doing the BRRRR strategy, it's kind of like a mix of fix and flip, but instead of selling it at the end and making a one-time payment, I'm doing a cash out refinance.
Oh,
so,
okay. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm keeping the property.
Yeah.
But the goal is to have no or very low money into it, and then a small mortgage, but it cash flows above that.
Right.
And so when I went to go back to the banks and say, like, hey, I got all this equity in this property, I bought it with credit, it's all free and clear, and then I ended up remodeling, putting $100K into it. There's, it's all free and clear, but they said, well, your credit score is in the 650s now
Yeah.
because you maxed out your credit cards. They were like, well, we can't refinance you. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, what are you talking about? You can just pay off this is worth a couple $100,000, like pay off the credit cards.
Yeah.
And so I had to start, figuring out how to move money around.
Yeah.
And
Well, did you end up keeping that property?
always, yeah. I really, if I can keep a property, I always will.
Yeah.
When I had the opportunity to flip and literally net almost $500,000, it was hard for me to say, well,
yeah.
I could cash this out and then I could put it to my next thing.
Yeah. Cool. Well, for people that are listening in and they're interested in, kind of building up their credit,
Yeah.
not just on the personal side, but on the business side, where can people find you and the company?
Yeah, for sure. So Credit Counsel Elite is the name of the company. I highly recommend just going to our website. We have tons of education on there. You can go to creditcounselelite.com. It's www.creditcounselelite.com. There's a quick 10-minute video on there that gives a little bit more detail of what the heck we do with credit. It gives you more education behind it, and hopefully breaks off some of that stinking thing and those myths that we grew up with around finances and credit. And then, yeah, if it makes sense and you want to get a second opinion, then we can kind of go over a one-on-one call to see where you're at, what your goals are, and how to get you there sooner.
And then what about your personal? Where can people find you if they want to follow you on social?
Yeah, for sure. So Instagram, it's Brandon Elliott Investments, and then Facebook.com/Brandon Elliott Investor. We also have a weekly podcast called Ready, Set, Go, Real Estate Investing Podcast. That's every Monday.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you being on the show.
Yeah, likewise, man. Appreciate you.